Good afternoon. We have an unboxing and assembly perspective from an amateur here in Central Ohio, Ariel Rider X-Class, 52 volt. We'll see what we have here with the packaging and what we find inside here and how difficult or easy this may turn out to be here. It'd help if I wasn't a sissy. And just as others have noted, it's a box inside of a box, which is better to do than not to do, I suppose. That one was much easier to flip open, wasn't it? So let's let them see what the inserts look like here at the moment. Everything appears to be held in place pretty good. So that's tucked in there. That's tucked in, slightly tucked in there. I'll just clean that up when we're finished here. Let's see what's in this box here on the end. Thank you. There's to be some pedals, toolkit, probably the battery charger, I'd assume. A couple of loose parts, some touch-up paint. We elected the, as you can see, the blue model of the 52, X52 class. Some hardwares and some wire loom. And an instruction manual. Imagine that, still printing an actual printed version of the instructions and not forcing you to find it all online these days, which seems to be the case for most folks. So let's set that aside. Okay. See how things are wedged in here. Okay. So the front wheel being not installed is tie wrapped to the bicycle forks. So I'll cut the tie wrap and try to pull this front wheel out of the way. Is that just being pinched here, or is there another tie wrap?
There's another wrap.
Aha.
So there are two wraps, tie wraps, that you have to cut to get the wheel out.
There we go. That one was sneaky. It's protected pretty well, though. That's a bubble wrap. Oh, the fender's in there as well. I can talk. Okay, so we got this part. That's loose now. That's loose. I suppose it's put the old muscles to work here, and we'll just lift the rest of the unit out of there, it looks like. I'll leave those again in a moment. There we go. It's pretty hefty. It may take some folks, 2 people, to lift that out of there. It didn't hurt having the second set of hands there holding the box in place while I pulled it out either. So, give it a quick look over before we go too far. Looks like everything stayed pretty well protected. Very good. It's not entirely stable on its own at this point. And granted, this floor may not be entirely level throughout as well. So a little backstory on us. We've got a couple of, well, 3 total of the mountain bike style El Cheapo electric bikes. All of them are 36 volt. 2 of them have 8 amp hour batteries. The one I purchased for herself is a 10 amp hour battery, 36 volt. And I just found that with the my size being about 6'2" and 235 pounds, just my wife and stepdaughter having those 2 bicycles, the same 300 watt motors as well on those, that I needed something a little more hefty to get me down the road to keep up with them, and chose to go with the Ariel Rider. I was looking at some of the juiced models and watched several videos and looked over several websites of the other moped styles. The juiced, they never really went on sale very well throughout the winter. There was a $200 off sale at one point, and it wasn't enough to move me toward pulling the trigger on the I think it was the Hyper Scorpion 2 with the dual battery that I was considering. So, and I was considering the Grizzly as well. However, it's on back order, and this one was in stock. And of course, this was $400 off. Regular $26.99 is what they have it marked for, and it's on sale for, or $25.99. Sorry, and it was on sale for $21.99. So the $400 off, I justified the purchase based on that sale and it being in stock. Of course, so this would be about $1,000 cheaper than the Grizzly at the moment, it being on sale at $22.99 versus a $32.99. And of course, there's all sorts of modifications a body can do should they choose to do so. So let's go ahead and finish unpackaging this thing and like the kid at Christmas, you just grab it, yank it, and throw it. And then worry about it later.
And then have the wife clean it up. Let's be honest.
That could be the case. Oh. And let the wife stand there and watch it fall and hit the ground.
Would you prefer I drop the camera?
Probably. Open that in a moment, I suppose. I will say that this is already much more assembled out of the box than the 3 El Cheapo mountain bikes that we purchased. It does appear it'll be much less intensive in final assembly here. And it appears the battery is latched into place during shipment. Yep, here it is. The battery's in place, which was not the case for the 3 mountain bikes that we purchased. Okay.
Put it up. You got one more piece down here.
Very good eye. There we go. There you can see. The only concern I did have about purchasing this particular model was the handlebar position. I would prefer them to be higher and not have to lean onto the handlebars to reach them and things. This does have a 3-position stem here for the handlebars to mount on. And when I reached out through Ariel Rider's website about the X-Class, a gentleman there, the customer service that responded, was kind enough at his own will to visit their warehouse area and take a couple of personal photos of the positions of the handlebars that did convince me that it would be good enough to my liking to go ahead and purchase this model based upon those photos. So I want to put a good word for their customer service and their willingness to help the customer and not just pawn them off and give them an automated response and move on their day. Which a year ago, when we were considering electric bikes, I was considering Sondors. However, their customer service quite convinced me that, just based on the customer service experience that I had, that I would not be purchasing any of their models. Okay. So, I'm going to put the kickstand. Still not quite holding it. It's a little too tall for the kickstand, I think, at this point. All right. Stand this in. Or you can keep going. So we need to install the handlebars, and then I'll move on to the pedals and front wheel, I suppose. I'd say it's really just up to the individual's preference on what they would move on to next. doesn't feel too good. That started fine. And doesn't feel very good. Like it's cross-threading. Take a look at the threads on it. Some grease on it. Try exchanging it one for another. It's very awkward. That one seems to be going all right. There we go. Praise God.
Amen.
Let's loosen this a hair. Now we can center the handlebar and the clamp where we see more lines on this side than none on this side. And we'll have to do some fine tuning of the pitch of these once we get seated on the bike and get a feel for it. I'm not going to completely clamp these down just yet. I have to do a final tightening once we get it adjusted where we want it. So that was the handlebars there, as you can see. A little bit of difficulty on one of the screws. Must have been a strange angle that the clamp was at. So just simply loosening the screws. And even interchanging one for one location to another. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to those types of things. So we'll try getting the front wheel on here. Cut the wraps. Protectors. They came with some protectors here to guard the studs of the wheel. And this, yeah, I do remember seeing something about removing this bolt. There's a bolt ran through the forks here that hold this plastic guard in place. So let me get a couple of wrenches here. Actually, I think I'll just use the old gator grip socket. Pretty handy for certain things. It doesn't handle a lot of torque. So it's not a perfect go-to tool for everything, but it does do some things well. Difficult to see. One item I failed to address, the bike is shipped with a plastic spacer in the brake caliper right there. May not be easily seen there, but it shouldn't remain in there continually. The purpose is during shipping, it keeps the brake pads that are installed inside the brake caliper held in place, that they do not become dislodged during shipping, which we had happen on 2 of our 3 mountain bikes that we purchased, the electric mountain bikes. 2 of the 3, we had to dig and find the brake pad loose in the box. Not sure which side. Oh, we'll put the washer on the outside with the nut. Okay. And the caliper is seated around the brake rotor. Very good. Give each of these a little tightening. There you go. Now let's kick the kickstand there and see if, there we go. Imagine that. Alrighty. So that leaves us with the pedals to install, and it looks like the front fender here I believe it's possible some folks have reversed the designed or the intended direction of the fender on their bike to give the bike a little different look as well. I've seen one video in particular of a gentleman had done so. So the bolt that mounts this front fender is already in place in the fork of the bike, straight out of the box. As you can see it here, it's just loosely installed there just to keep it in place so that you don't have to track it down in some of the packaging, I suppose. So you'll need to remove the bolt completely from the fork. I feel like it's probably supposed to go this direction with the little flare toward the rear of the bike. Yeah, as my wife just noted, the back one does have the flare end of the fender toward the rear of the bike. Not the easiest to reach with fumble fingers here. And the end of the bolt, you have one side receives the nut. The head of the bolt is the same size Allen tool that you'll use for the handlebars. And there we go, I'm holding the end of the nut from spinning with my finger, and now it's a little bit too tight for me to just simply hold with my finger. So I have some channel locks here that I was using on the front wheel, and I'll give this nut a pinch here. Use the Allen on the head of the bolt. There we go. And it's fairly secure. Very good. So now we'll move on to the pedals, I suppose. Now the three bikes I've put together recently, and bicycles in history. Yes, that box was in fact the charger. One side of the bike, the pedal will be reverse thread, and the other side of the bike will be your standard right-hand turn to tighten thread. And these are marked with a little sticker. That one's right, of course, and there's your left pedal. So the left one, I believe, will be the one that's reverse thread. And I was correct. So the left-hand pedal, you'll actually have to turn it counterclockwise to tighten it into the pedal arm. Again, I'll use the channel locks that I had here. Very universal tool here for this particular project anyway. I've not attempted to use any of the tools that were in the toolkit. I'm just accustomed to using my tool bag and things I have in the garage. So I guess we could have the folks take a look at what is inside the toolkit here. So you have, that's a decent style Allen wrench. Different distances that you can utilize that with. Let's see if that's the same. No, that's a different size Allen wrench, your standard style. Slightly larger. I don't see these stamped with their actual sizing. And then you have a screwdriver type handle that some sort of device will shove back into. No, that's not it, sweetheart. It might be for a valve core or something. I don't know. Probably have to look at the manual, I guess, to see actually what some of that is. And then you have some combination wrenches here, different sizes, all metric, as you can see. There's one other smallish Allen wrench in the bag, so that completes. That's a fairly decent supply of tools to have on hand. So now I'll move around to the other side and complete the other brake pedal. We'll see, but it would appear that this hardware is simply additional. Should some have failed to be installed on the bicycle before it was put in the box, or perhaps you should have something vibrate loose down the road. Quite literally, I suppose that would be down the road. And you have some hardware here to replace that. That's the touch-up paint, which is, you know, I'm quite glad they do include that little bit. I still haven't opened that particular box. So this will be right-hand thread. The brake pedal, or the pedal itself, is a plastic material. But as you can see from the angle, you have some protruding nubs here that will help bite into the sole of your shoe. There we go. Very good. So we have the battery charger over here. I am curious to know what was included in this particular box. Ah. What could it be?
Headlight.
I should have put that thought together before guessing what was in the box. So it looks like there's simply a plug here for the wiring, and then a simple bracket the bolt run through. And here on the bike you can see a bolt in place here. So lay that on there so it doesn't get scuffed. Break out the old gator grip again. So you simply have a bolt with a lock washer on it on one side, and it appears the other side is the same thing. In there pretty good. Not quite as easy to turn loose. That was a little more difficult to get that one out. Perhaps a dab of grease would assist with that.
Here's a lock washer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, very good guess. It's a 14 millimeter bolt. So before you get it too tight, you want to get the pitch of your headlight where you'd like it to have it. This is kind of a subjective preference, person to person, and a little bit of a guess too at the same time. So we'll see how that will do. Appears once you get it doing what feels like pretty snug on the bolts, appears you can still adjust that angle of the headlight without loosening the bolts. Now that feels pretty secure there. Alright, so let's plug this in. So here's the two plugs. There's a slight notch on the one side of the plug, so we'll align those notches together. There we go.
Does that sheath in the box go on it?
This wire loom?
Yeah.
I suppose a body can use it where they choose to.
Does it need it?
Well, need is, I don't know if it's a need. A body could choose to do so, I suppose, and put it right here, maybe. Try to secure it there. So you just get one end of it at the cables and then start spinning it, and it will essentially kind of act like a corkscrew and screw itself into place. So we can put it there. Perhaps we'll not find any other purpose for that piece. All right. Did we find any keys in any of this?
They're hanging on the handlebars.
Ah, very good. There's the keys for the battery. Tie wrap to the handlebar. As far as the battery goes, you can see here on the top of the battery there is a little rubber cover. That's tougher than I am.
You sure that's not a button?
It is a button.
This is the cover over here, huh?
Okay. It's not only tougher than I am, it's smarter than I am, which is really not that stretch of a feat to accomplish.
So that's the
USB charge.
USB charge, and this is the. Does it come off?
The battery?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure it's locked in place. Let's, I guess, cut these loose here and give it a try. So the lock is on the left-hand side of the bike. It's a spring-loaded type locking cylinder. Yes, it only turns one way. There it goes. It's a pretty weighty battery too. 52 volt, 18 amp hour. Here's your charging port. See how smart I was? I figured that one out.
Good job, hon.
So out of the box, out of the box, it looks like it's pretty well charged. So it is worth noting, anytime that the battery is on the bike, that it is in fact locked in position. So to remove the battery, you will have to have the key anytime and every time you want to remove the battery. Our mountain bikes that we purchased, each of those three, you actually have to lock the battery on with the key if you want it to be locked onto the bicycle. And we could give them a little picture of, we keep talking about these throughout the video. We could give them a little reference of what we're talking about. So this is the model that I purchased for myself. 300 watt, 36 volt, 10 amp hour battery, mechanical disc brakes, front suspension, came with the fenders, has an integrated headlight. This is a 21 speed, has a derailleur. I bought this particular seat elsewhere because the one that was included was quite narrow. And for a cheapo bike, this had a pretty decent display on it. I have 44 miles on the bicycle. And it does have some other options down here as you cycle through. There's your trip meter, volume. I'm not exactly sure what volume. It doesn't have a speaker, so it's not sound. Current. I don't know what that. Let's turn the. Okay, so it displays. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. How much current's going through?
That's an interesting stat for a cheapo model to have that feature. And then your ride time. So it's a pretty decent display for a $633 bike purchased off of Walmart. The other two bicycles my wife and my stepdaughter have were purchased off of Amazon. Each of those two a different name brand as well. All right. So back to the machine we're interested in here today. The X-Class does have rear foot pegs. As I remember, the weight capacity of the bike is 300 pounds. So I'll not be able to have too large of a rider accompany me should one have the interest to do so, being 235 pounds. I'm not that far away from maxing it out as it is. So one thing I do have interest in is seeing this adjustment on these handlebars. The couple of videos I did watch of folks putting this together, there wasn't any indication on how this angle is adjusted on these. So let's take a look here at the toolkit. That's all this larger Allen wrench in here. And it looks like the only spot that I can see thus far on the bike where this would fit. And there we go. It looks like it's probably in the highest position as it is, but yeah, I think so. No, there we go. Can you hear that clicking?
Yeah, I can hear it.
So that's a good sound indicator to let you know that those are individual points that could be locked into. So I'm going to place mine in the full upright position. Because I don't want to have to lean over to reach the bars. And I may, in fact, replace these handlebars. And I can immediately see that I need to adjust the pitch of the handlebars in the clamp. So loosen this clamp back up a little bit. I think I like that. I want to be able to, can you get an angle of the end of the bar and see how it kind of widens out toward the end of the hand grip? That's kind of like, I think they call that a palm rest. So I like to be able to have some of my weight fall down upon that palm rest to help support my weight as I have to lean over. It kind of helps me keep held in position going down the road. The only thing I'm not a big fan of, and I knew this obviously before I purchased, is the twist throttle. I much prefer the thumb throttle. I just feel it's much easier to maneuver the throttle with your thumb than half of your hand resting on this and having to let go and grab and all that action. I'd rather just the thumb throttle, partially because I grew up riding four-wheelers, and that's the type of throttle that those machines have. And the other part is just functionality. It just feels better to use a thumb throttle to myself. Although we could show them the stepdaughter's bike and how I modified that thumb throttle, or that twist throttle. I made it a thumb throttle for her. I simply used a hose clamp around the throttle, and then I had a small piece of angled bracketry from some project in the past that I bent into a 90-degree angle and put it under the hose clamp so that the bracket just sticks out, obviously toward the rider, and then I wrapped the piece of bracket with some heavy-duty electrical rubber splicing tape to give it some cushion and protect the rider from getting any cuts or abrasions, or keep the metal from rusting as well somewhat. So what do we think? Think we're ready to see if this thing will turn on?
Yep. I do believe so.
See, the wife didn't have to clean up all the mess.
Good job, honey. Thank you.
I'm going to leave you a little bit so you don't feel left out.
I appreciate that. Thank you for making me feel included.
You're welcome. Okay. That's just I don't believe that's a power on and off for the battery. I guess it's just a power indicator.
Appears so. There's some buttons over here. Or something over here.
There's two buttons on the bottom of the display, and then there's two on the sides.
That's a plus and a minus.
Yeah. There we go. So the right hand button on the underside of the display powered the bike on.
It has a power symbol on it.
Okay. It's quite low for me standing, so.
Yeah. It's not easy to see.
So although on the battery, power indicator shows all lights illuminated. The display on the bike shows 3 out of what looks like probably 5 total bars available with power in the battery.
It could be output too. It has full output if you wanted to plug something into it.
So the bike out of the box shows 1.2 miles. It's had 7 minutes of ride time. The average speed out of the box is 10 miles an hour. And the max speed out of the box is 21 miles per hour.
It's interesting.
So if we hold the left-hand button that's on the bottom, we can cycle through. So that's in miles per hour there. What do I need to do? Hold this again. I just turned it off.
What are you trying to do?
Hold this left button. Okay, I want to cycle through. I have no idea what that is.
It's probably your levels of pedal assist.
There's something on there that should show PD for password.
HD, PD.
There it is. So this is 9191 or 1919. I feel like it's 1919. Do you think that failed?
I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to do. I'm not familiar with this setting.
It's asking for the password again. Speed limit. So I saw one particular video that indicated to achieve full power output out of the bike and max speed out of the bike that you had to set this to 39 miles per hour.
You have to put your password in every time to do that?
After a certain period of time, I suppose it times out. Pedal assist, 0 through 5. So it has a total of 9 pedal assist levels, but it's out of the box. It's set at a maximum of 5 of those 9 pedal assist levels, so you have to go in and change that factory setting from 5 up to 9 to, in fact, get all 9 levels available to you. So let's see if we can give it a little go here. Now we have the pedal assist levels and the maximum speed adjusted. Oh yeah, that's pretty comfortable.
Excuse me.
Much better pedal assist than the mountain bikes, that's for sure. I think that was only on level 1. Now I just adjusted it to 9, level 9. Let's see how that feels. Oh yeah. So level 1 was a greater power and speed than the max level on the 300 watt mountain bikes that we have. So I just had it on level 9, and it's incredible the difference in what that feels.
Just the headlight.
Would you like to hear the bell?
Yep.
/ horn? I think I was a little too close to the speed gear selector. It's keeping it from sounding as you would expect. I'll have to fool with that later, I suppose. Anyway, I hope there's been a little bit of help watching this video. Very first, if it's not been obvious, very first video ever having put together, and hopefully we'll publish this on YouTube. Thanks to the wife for being patient and doing all the filming and giving some pointers and pointing things out and helping with the assembly. So I thank you all, and I'll leave you with this. You have no hope of your eternity without the Lord Jesus Christ. So if you have not received Him and actively seek after Him every day, you must do so in order for heaven to make your home. It's not just about believing in God, as was the lie that I believed for over 34 years of my life. But in fact, there's more to just believing there is a God. So please pick up a Bible and begin to do some reading, and put all the belief that you have into what the Bible says. You may not understand it all, and I don't believe anyone here on the earth does in this life fully understand cover to cover. But pick up a Bible and begin to read, and put your belief in that, and begin to apply what the Bible teaches to your daily life, and find you a church that speaks straight from the Bible, and may God bless you all.